Hey guys, Stuart, Mark Osborne, Bill Baggins, g'day. Here we are. Oh, a bit tired. Big day. Lots happening. Where do we start? Don't know. Oh, gosh, there's a lot happening. What did I do on the weekend? Let's start on the weekend. Look at this. This needs still putting stuff away. There's a sofa arrived here. What did I do on the weekend? Saturday I mowed grass. I don't know if anyone's seen outside here in the daylight. Let's go and have a look. Not with that lawnmower, because that lawnmower's stuffed. We'll have a look at that in a minute. Or with that lawnmower, that one's stuffed too. Oh, it's better than it was. Grass. It's reasonably mowed. It could have another go this weekend, wouldn't it? But I don't know if I'm going to get time on Sunday. We'll see. This is where it's all happening. Railway shed over there. Van here. Coal dump there. Caravan park over the fence. Station up there. Small smoky loader there. John Deere tractor and spreader there. Shanks steam engine there with boiler. So didn't get down here because of all the sticks. I've got to at least this weekend pick up all the sticks. Got the mower down there and there's too many sticks and things on the road. So someone's actually been driving down there in the last little while, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, that's behind the shed. Bill says start at the other end just for change. Not a bad idea at all. We'll come and have a look what's happening down here. It's the daylight actually at the moment, and that's a bit surprising at 7:30, but there we go. Let's have a look. Watch out for snakes, because we've seen a couple here today, just so we know. We've got Optus Tower right there. That's why I've got reception. No one else has got reception because they're all on Telstra. There's a clear patch back here that we're working on. This is a work in progress, but this is part of our land use agreement here. Bill says get some goats. There's going to be a pole shed going here and cover over it. About 8 by 8 or 10 by 10, something like that, for storage. Be very good. Down there on that patch of dirt is where my accommodation is going to go. Right, eventually, that's where that's going. It's starting to look reasonably good. We've got to get in and do some. There's a tree blown over here in the last storm. We've got to get in here in the next little while and mow the grass and get some mat down and some gravel and fence all that off and all that sort of stuff. Get it all nice and tidy. That's a job. So the cattle yard there. Kitchen door to the shed's over there. That's a new addition. I only just put that in there. But good stuff. None of the tin on this matches. They painted this side green, I imagine, because there's so many different coloured bits of tin on it. The back's actually red. I think it's a Colorbond. Looks like it might have new tin on the back. But the old shed's pretty mismatched, actually. If you look, don't quite add up anywhere. I don't think it was all that colour when they put it on. It's all second hand. A lot of short bits. Anyway, that's the shed. We'll look out here. This is Stuart Mackey's Shanks steam engine. Victorian, well, nearly Victorian. Georgian anyway. Probably Georgian describes it. No, it doesn't really. That's before Victorian. It's Victorian. It's not Edwardian. It's Victorian. But it needs a bit of work. It's not the original crankshaft. There's no flywheel. The base is broken. Most of the rods are missing. It's got a cylinder. Most of the governor, which is a patented thing that they use, is missing. Bit of a job for someone. Bit of a job. There's William Mackey's home boiler there. That's pretty good nick, that. It's a little vertical boiler. It's got the tubes out of it. Work in progress. So that's what's happening here. It's the rest of the railway atrocity down there. There's some new pegs in the ground down there, so it looks like probably we're getting a fence and stuff. Stuff's coming along. The sawmill's going to go here. Boiler house. All that stuff eventually. We have a meeting on Saturday, basically for planning and stuff, to work out what exactly we're doing and what we're not doing, what's going to happen. Get our 20-year plan going, but honestly, we'll see what happens. I'd rather do things slowly than to half do them and have to do them again. In here there's a steamroller with stuff on it everywhere that needs a clean up. It's a job for probably starting next week on that. There's a cabinet here that I put rust converter on but haven't rubbed down and put a coat of paint on yet, which is a bit slack. Be nice to get that done Saturday. We'll see how we go. Be very nice to get that done. Sunday I went out to Dan's, among other things, picked up the rest of this little Bay of Peacock engine. Picked up this sofa that he was getting rid of. Picked up my air compressor, which haven't had here for a while. And picked up my ladder, which we also haven't had here for a while. Didn't get anything else, workbench or anything, so it's happening. This belongs to a friend. This John Deere mower. I've just done the bearings in here and here. It's all back together, everything works. Mower's blade's a bit short on one end, and because it's not balanced, it's just going to slog all this out. The same as this one. See there? You can see that, but this is all slogged out here. It needs a plate on it and some new bolts. Bit crap. This one will end up the same if you don't put balanced blades on it. So new blades in the works for this one. Sorted that out. There's the lawnmower update. This is our Tello Adventures lawnmower that belongs here. It's not the one I used to mow all this last week, but it's got some problems. So at some point, it's going to need a new plate on that guard, on that mower deck, and some new bolts. Fix it properly. Oh, get this out of the way tomorrow and get this back up here so we can have a look at it, sort it out. Get it going. I'd like to have it back in the shed by Christmas time, ready to go. It's not a bad little mower, except that it falls to bits. Minor stuff. So that's what's happening this weekend, last weekend. I've done this too, because, you know, sitting still, there's no future sitting still. I don't know if you can see that. It's got first coat of undercoat on it, and I run out of undercoat. I'm going to have to put another one on, or at least a bit more, and sand it back. Might be a Friday night job. Get some colour on it Saturday, I hope. But that's cool. My bookcases are going up against this wall. And because there appears to be a termite problem here, or there potentially could be. I don't really want to put these wooden bookcases full of paper down on the concrete. So what I was doing and been messing with a bit tonight, we've got some termite-proof treated pine, apparently. Termites are treated. They're not supposed to eat this stuff. I've got some aluminium angle or aluminium channel. I'm going to screw that on there and put some holes in here and put one on each leg of the bookcase to lift it that far off the ground, and put some screws in it so it doesn't fall over, and hopefully it'll stop the varmint getting up through here into the bookcase. If anyone thinks that might not work, give me a better idea. It's worth a try, I guess. So I've got enough bits for 2 bookcases made, but I got the club drill press out, thinking gonna just set it up and drill some holes, put some screws in there, it'd be great. Just the thing. Club drill press has been decommissioned. Someone's chopped the cord off it. So I don't know whether there's something wrong with it or what the story is. I have to find out, but it needs a new cord at the very least. It's a pity because it's a good little drill press. Hey, David. So, anyway, club drill press doesn't work. Then I go looking and find this club grinder and wire buff, and it's got the same problem, no cord. So, don't know why they've done that. Maybe they were surplus to requirements and no one bothered to. Someone thought that they should be rendered inoperable. I don't know. Anyway, all good. I finished with the electrolysis bath for now. Got this fan back together. It's looking a bit smick. So it's got the shroud all painted back up. It all works. Got the base all painted. So this be sorted. It's another job out of the way. Some of it's still brushed aluminium, but it's all together. Pretty happy with that. And turned a free fan into it like I think I spent about $25 on it with paint. Anyway, all sorted. What else? Only 12 minutes in and we've covered everything. Historical Vintage Machinery Australia. Which is the new magazine for Australian Machinery magazine arrived today. I've seen the digital version, but I wanted a paper copy. It's quite nicely put together. If they can keep this quality up and make it a bit more than about 10 pages, it'd be great. I'd like to see this go ahead and prosper a bit. But guess who made the back cover? There you go. So pretty happy with that. Also made the title picture on the NHMA National Rally. So the 4 founders there, Gary Olsen's and Matt Yaps and South Australian Crane Engine and my poor cousin. Anyway, there they are lined up. No captions on any of the pictures. This one says there's a nice display of Abraham Porters. This one says Fowlers on display, but not a lot of research went into that. I think they could do better than this. Anyway, that's the new Australian magazine. Pretty happy with that. Fills a bit of a void. but Lilith made it to the back cover. What else come today? Oh yeah, stuff. Oh, I'm sore. Sorry. I messed around and took that axe handle out of that axe, and there's a new axe handle there from work. It was just seconds to go in it, but my poor linisher's got problems. It's a bit underpowered anyway. It's a bit useless, this linisher. I really want to build a Jeremy Schmidt belt grinder. It'd be a very nice thing to have. And every time I go to do a job around the shop, I think I should have one of them, but it hasn't come together yet. I've got one, it's just all in bits and needs welding up. But when you press this button, it runs when it's cold. There you go. After about 3 minutes, that switch pops out and you can't get it started again. So I don't know whether there's a cutout or something in that switch, or whether it's just not working, or whether it's dirty, or whether the contacts get hot and don't work, or what the story is. If anyone's got a thought about that, it's not the original switch on it. I put that switch on it because the old one was broken. I think I 3D printed a surround for it and put that switch in it. Stuart says put a new capacitor in it. Valid point. I know, we're listening. Might try that. Okay, thanks, Stuart. Much appreciated. So it's a bit underpowered and it's a bit useless anyway. But I wanted to sand up this axe handle, and it's really not what it takes to do that at the moment, so I don't know why. Bill was onto that too, yeah, this is my first thought as well. That's why I didn't think of it before. Matt's, g'day. So, that's next to useless at the moment. And I'd like to finish fitting this handle up. I don't know whether I take it to work and do it at lunchtime. It wouldn't take long to put a handle in it. Get that sorted. It stands axe, I better get that fixed. Anyway, might do it Friday. Work, we'll see how it go. Anyway, air hose here, one's hanging up. Might hang that up there on that hook over there at some point. I'll see how that goes. I'll do that tonight, I remember. Torch. James isn't here again, so it's safe to talk about this. This has done a little bit of work since we talked about it last. I think it's a useful machine to have. And it's still work in progress. But I'm looking at this, and there's projects I'd like to get finished on it and projects I'd like to start on it. There's 1,000 things I'd like to do to it. I've talked about a box down here, and I think that's something that's going to happen fairly quickly because I can get that done at work. Bill says you should definitely build the grinder. Absolutely. I've got the kit of parts there. I've just got to put it together. I've got to get there. I've got a gas bottle even. I've just got to get the TIG out and get up to speed. It was going to be a thing, but then summer's so hot here that I don't really feel much like TIG welding when I come home from work. Once I start, I'll be fine. So, I got this spot on this guard. Right, sort of works. I've never tightened this up in the last little while, so. But there's a blank spot on here, and the thought was to put a taco in here. Now, the design that we come up with was really too thick, and it sticks out past here. It's not really working for me. With some consultation on the internet the other night with Stuart, I picked this up, and it's just arrived. It comes in a box with a filter in it to make it turn blue and stuff. And a Hall effect sensor and a magnet, which is way too big, really, I don't know. But when I got thinking about it, we make a cover for this in aluminium or even 3D printed to go on there, that would fit nicely. And that was my thought process with this. Now I pulled it out of the box. Just make a nice little cover for it. Probably get a bit of filtered glass to make it look good. But that's sort of what I want to do. Now, the sensor, which is this monstrosity of a thing with about 100 miles of cable on it and so forth and so on. If I put a bracket off this bracket out here, right, with a hole in it, and make a cavity in the back of this casting, I reckon that sensor would sit in here nicely and operate on that collar very, very smartly with just a little hole here for the wire to come through. So that would be completely out of sight because it'd be in the back there, underneath. And we could make it on that bracket, which makes it a fairly easy place to mount it. And you use the nuts, which make it all adjustable for depth. We could make a little collar for that in plastic and put the magnet in it. And I think that it would be very, very satisfactory. Just got to hook it up and work out how to hook it up. Pity it's not got separate power connections all on one plug, because two of those wires are electricity, and it's got to go across to the VFD, which means it's got to go down the leg there, across the table, or under the table, back up through here somewhere, probably back up through the centre, and in through the back here. Don't know about in through the back. I don't know how to run that. I've still got to think about that. Don't know where to put the wires, how to make that work. It's got to be 12 to 48 volts or something. And there's 12 volt 400 milliamps on this VFD. So I could take it off that and I could run a wire down there and through the hole in the bench and across here. And we could drill a hole in the centre. I don't like doing that very much. In the drip tray and come up through the drip tray. Anyway, we've got to give that some thought. Where are we going to do that? What are we going to do? The VFD doesn't really give that info. It gives the cycles, 70 hertz. You can sort of put a ratio in, but only one ratio, and there's 3 ratios on the pulley. So you've got to change it when you change your pulley to make it work properly, or do the maths in your head. Anyway, that's the thought process with this guard, and it's been a work in progress for a while, because messing around with the VFD isn't really working. But I think this will. I think it'll be very neat to put a little cover on here with an opening in it, and then probably might be able to cut down that filter, or we could find another coloured piece of glass or something to go in here. Yeah, the VFD gives you the speed of the motor if you work it out right. But there's a gear reduction under here, then there's another gear reduction here, and then there's another gear reduction here, and that's variable. So it's a bit of stuffing around. Anyway, I think, I was looking at this and thinking something smaller than this would be great. But when I look at this, I think if we put that in there, it's not going to poke through the back hardly. Like, we could just drill a hole in the centre all the way through and put a bracket on this bracket here, extension, out here, and then clamp it on that. It doesn't have to touch this cover. It's just got the 2 wires poking through here. We can put the wires through here into the plug nicely behind the board. We can probably stick this board out 5 mil, something like that. And we put a cover out maybe 10 millimetres, and that would be nice and neat. So it's still a lot of stuff around, Bill, but it might be more better system. Anyway, so that arrived today. Now, digging around, and this, everyone's going to groan here, but digging around, I found these bits, right, in a box, some castings, because everyone needs a set of castings in their life. 4 castings for this long forgotten project. It was always built, was always going to be a tacho, but I was going to have a rev counter as well. I don't think that will work, but if we could re-engineer a rev counter and tacho into the same space, it'd be very nice, but it hasn't happened as yet. Like a turn counter would be very helpful. Anyway, this is 3D printed. I had this working, the 3D printed model, on the lathe. This is an ellipse chuck for turning ellipses, which I thought would be very, very useful for making model steam engine flanges and things. That was my thought process with that. It was in an old book. So I drew it up and I made some patterns, like back in the day when I was making timber patterns. And I got a main body casting, which is the blue bit. And I've got a slide casting, which is the white bit. And I've got a yoke casting, which is the white bit on the back. And I've got a eccentric cam casting, which is this bit. Now the eccentric cam casting, it's a really nice iron casting. It's a pity not to use it, but it's not ideal. Because this here, if we use this, I'm going to put you guys down for a second. You can talk amongst yourselves. I'll be back. Right, took the 4-jaw chuck off, that's all. I'm back. Hey, Peter. So this was designed to clamp onto the headstock here and move backwards and forwards with 2 adjusting bolts. Bit ugly, scratches all the paint, never been really impressed with it. It seemed like a pretty shabby fix for something that could be really good. So it wasn't going to work out, and I wasn't going to build the thing as this because there's no fine adjustment, there's no real... Why don't I use my tripod? Very good question. I'd have to go and find it in a box. Sorry, guys. Bit slack. So, this isn't going to work. My thought process now, just thinking about this last night, because, you know, we need to think about things like this, is I've got a base casting from a steady, which I ended up stuffing up and it doesn't work properly. That's the same profile as this that goes on the bed. If I got that and chopped it off and put a nice round top on it with a pin, a hole for a pin, and cut the back of it out, so make it so it's probably 1 inch wide, and bolts on them here in front of the bed nicely, and put a like a ground pin in there as a pivot into this piece, so that it's captive on the back, and then made a rocking plate on there with this cam on it. If you think about it, with this cam on it, so that it moves side by side and rocks on this pin. We don't have to mess around and change any of this. It needs some sort of locking device, and whether you just drill and tap that there and put a screw in there with a slotted hole, something like that. Don't know. Whether you make it so it locks on the pin or whether you make it so that the pin's a nice fit in a reamed hole and you put a locking screw onto the pin, or whether you put a cam system that locks the pin down tight so it doesn't move. There's a fair bit of leverage on it. But that's my thought processes now to make that work. And if you could get that piece on there so that you just undo the bolt, slide this off, take it off, put it back together with this in place, you could just screw the ellipse chuck on and everything would work. And that'd be very, very nice. You could paint it all to match the rest of the lathe and it'd look good. And it'd probably even work. So if anyone's got any thoughts on that, that's what I'd like to do. Just a matter of getting that rocking plate to lock on this piece. Whether you put an arm out with a lever with a slotted hole in it and with a lock and screw, or whether you make it a little bit higher and put a locking screw in the outside piece to lock the plate, or whether you hey Mark, whether you, what would be ideal is just having a lever that you lock it like this to move it across and lock it and get it right. Or some sort of a screw system to move it backwards and forwards precisely. So you get an Allen key or a turn screw or a knob or something so that you could adjust it a millimetre that way or a millimetre that way or whatever to make it your ellipse accurate dimensions. Anyway, thinking out loud for now, that's all. Don't expect too much progress on this, but that's something that might need redesigning, and at some point I might draw it up and 3D print a piece and mess around and get the bits out that sort of fit the lathe and cut it down and see what I can find out and work out. If I could get this following cam on here, then the rest is probably fairly simple to go ahead and actually make, which is basically a centralised slide here with two gibs that hold the slide in place and levers out the back, and then slides that go this way like that. I figure if it's working nicely in Mark's out driving around. Hello. So if I can get this working reasonably good and drawing an oval on paper with a pen in plastic, I had it operational, then probably in metal we could get some reasonable results out of it. It's going to be a bit limited because I can't put collets in it, and it's got to actually, I can't use any of the small chucks, so it's got to be a backing plate chuck. So it's got to be reasonably solid, hence the saw that, yeah, doing good. So there's a big cast iron casting here. It's just a matter of boring that and threading it and machining the slide in it and all the rest of the bits. Drilling a hole here for jimmy bar so that you can actually put it on and take it off. And then for some reason on the drawing I had, these were in two bits. The collar was in two bits, and then they had springs between here and here, and springs between here and the other side. I think I've got a broken piece there. They had these levers sticking out here in steel with a coil spring between them. to hold them onto the cam, like so, which goes there. I don't know why that's like that and why it's not just a one-piece thing there, or a proper bronze bush running on there. I've got a bronze casting. I think if you bored that nicely to fit the actual cam, because it's a round cam, I don't think it needs to split properly to go in and out. Maybe it wears too quick and it's got to be spring-loaded to hold some pressure on it. Don't know. Bit of a mystery. Anyway, I'm not seriously looking at this, but I am sort of in the back of my head thinking about a redesign, because I think this wasn't going to work. So they're the launch improvements, really. They're the things that we're working on at the moment with that, eventually. Also, tool chest underneath. I ordered some handles, like some oyster brass handles for the tills, and they're on back order and won't be here till the middle of January or end of February or something, I don't know. So we're procrastinating this, but probably the carcass will go in fairly quickly, because someone at work could make that up and I can dovetail it. So there you go. Anyway, that's that. Donation box progress. That's the next thing. It's not very much. There is actually. Talked about it with Russell at work, who's enthusiastic as anything when it comes to projects like this. And he got in today and machined some heads for some puppets or figures. All right, a couple with flat tops for hats and a couple of round ones. They're not quite the same, but humans aren't either. Good stuff. So that's excellent. Ignore the dowels. There we go. So they've got a cross pin to go in there and a little neck piece with a brass tube. So, or a neck piece in wood with a brass cross tube, and then a steel cross pin in there so that the head nods forward and backwards. Like so. And probably that'll sit on a brass tube with a pin that goes all the way through the body, and then it'll turn this way too, so we can look this way or this way, and we'll put a hat on him so that you can actually see it turn, and a little nose and stuff. This guy who's turning, his shoulders are going to have to move too, because he's moving backwards and forwards. So I'm not going to do the whole look at me do this thing. But from his torso down up, or his shoulders up, his shoulders are going to have to be on the same mandrel and move sideways too, while he turns backwards and forwards. And then when he throws his arms up, his head will have to go up, so he rolls his eyes or whatever. I don't know about rolls eyes, but he puts his head up and his arms throw up in disgust. So that's really can probably be done on two cams. So this will be a follower. His head will be a follower in his arms. So his arms will go up and his head will follow a bit. When his arms go down, his head will probably return. Looking sideways, backwards and forwards. While he's turning, he'll go from there to there. And then probably his head will go a bit further to catch a glance of the other person over here who's stealing the things that he's making firewood. So there'll be a wire in the back here to move, or probably won't be actually, there'll be a wire in his shoulders to move him sideways, and one leg will be solid and the other one will pump up and down on these are going to end up with fingerprints all over them. They're going to need to sand up before they're any good because I'm dirty tonight. Anyway, little flat cap on this one which needs some work. I was messing around with the sander and that's when I discovered that the switch pops out. So one leg will be attached to the treadle on the lathe, and the lathe will work from under here, and it'll move his foot up and down. And that's how that works. So this guy over here will be picking up this when he thinks that the wood turner's not watching. He'll be picking up the stack of turn, whatever they are, balustrades or whatever's making, and throwing them in the firebox of the engine, which will be here. Like the engine will be here. So that's how that works. Over here in the corner there'll be a third guy, probably with a little forge and a bellows here in the corner. Something like a cuckoo clock bellows, but disguised as a proper blacksmith shop bellows, operating the forge, and the guy will be hammering something, and it'd be nice to have a little fur cat that so eyes pop out or something when he hits the tail of the cat with the hammer or something like that. I don't know, I'm still thinking about this. These are just working thoughts. And rather than this bellows operating and blowing the fire, I'll probably put a hose in it, or put a pipe in the bottom of it, so that the air operates one of the, like a wooden reed steam whistle or a train whistle. You know, everyone's seen those wooden train whistles that you blow with about 2 psi with your mouth. If we had a reed or a section off one of those, when you pump this, the steam whistle would blow in conjunction with someone pulling a string over here, so you think that's what's happened. So that'd be the 3 guys at this point. There's 4 heads, so I don't know if we're going to go for a 4th person somewhere, but the busier the better. Anyway, sound ambitious? Absolutely. And his arm torn off, Bill says. Yeah, we'll think about that. But I don't know how much more room there is. There's 4 little figures. They're going to be about 180 tall, I guess, something like that. With a treadle lathe here and a forge over here with a bellows system. We'll probably have another guy pumping the bellows or something like that. I don't know. Thought was to maybe have a steam engine ticking over to run this line shaft to run the bellows, but I don't think that's going to work. So, anyway, that's the work in progress. We've got 2 windows here to go in the sides, probably. One there, one there. That's the thought. We've got Lazy Susie bearings here for gears to operate it. We're going to have a crank on the front. I think we need to have the crank on the front, because if we have it round the side, that sort of left-handed people can't see in. So I think at this point we're going to put a crank in the front, probably either in the middle or here, on this side or in the middle, with a shaft that goes through and a worm drive on one of these big gears and a series of cams off that to make all these things happen. Anyway, anyone wants to come and give us a hand, that's great. I've got the aluminium plate on the front we cast the other weekend. It's looking pretty good. I haven't painted donations on this yet. I'm still thinking about that. Bill, that's a very, very valid point. There's my pins that I thought I couldn't find. There we go. Are they 3mm, 4mm? 3mm. I think they're a bit big. We're going to have to find some smaller ones. I was going to use them for cross pins in the heads and things, but I think they're a fraction big. So I might have to find some smaller ones. It's 2.5s by 16s are available on net, pretty cheap. So anyway, this is actually hinged. If we put all this over here so it doesn't fall out, it's got a hinge at the front, so you can look inside the box, and it'll have to have some sort of a lock on it, I guess, cupboard lock or box lock or something, just with a key, an old-fashioned key maybe, so that no one looks inside, and some sort of legs on it to bring it down to a level that the kids can play with it. So that's a work in progress to the extreme, but it's going ahead now. I think we're going to make this work. The hard bit's complete. It's working out what everything's going to do. Just now it's a matter of actually doing some actual work and making it work. So that's the thing. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. What else? I don't know. I don't know if there's much else happening here at all. Rubbish bin's getting a bit full. There must be a rubbish run on Sunday. Cylinder block for this engine needs to go in the electrolysis tank next. That's the idea. That's why I bought all the gear for electrolysis tank 6 months ago. The cylinder's in the back there. This is all pretty heavy. I'm not going to move it, but under that Scotch yoke crank there, there's a cylinder. We're still missing one piece for this, I noticed, which must still be at Dan somewhere. No idea where. We'll go and find it at some point. But the cylinder could go in the electrolysis tank for a bit. That won't hurt that. Did I talk about steering gears for the roller? No, not yet. Hasn't happened. Nothing's happened on this roller. It needs to be pulled out and washed out again and cleaned up at some point. It'd be nice to get that done this weekend. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it'd be nice to get it done this weekend. It'd certainly be nice to get it out of the shed and cleaned up and back in before Christmas. I've been flat out with other stuff. I haven't even ordered that gear. Got the cash there to do it. I've talked to her a few times about it. It hasn't happened. Just got slack. So at some point, yes, it will turn up. And we'll get that sorted. This trolley could go out of the way too at some point. It's probably less in the way than lawnmowers and crap. I'd like to get, at this point, this cabinet rubbed down, a coat of undercoat on it at least. Some of the old chewing gum scraped off the back. I guess that's what that is. I don't know what it is. That's blue tack, that one. It's obviously had posters or something stuck on it. And scrape all that crap off it and give it a good sand back and a coat of undercoat. And then we can start thinking about top coat on it. And it can go over there in the corner, right over behind the fan in the corner there, under the mezzanine. And once that's in place, I can start putting some stuff in it. So this is probably more of a priority. No, you didn't miss it. Didn't miss anything. Nothing to see here. Excuse me, sorry, you're not that boring, it's just that I'm exhausted. I've been making handles of this week. What have I done this week? I've done 168 ads handles. There we go, because everyone needs to make ads handles. Ads handles are a bit of a challenge, to be honest. Ads handles are, yeah, piece of work. And it's taken me quite a bit of time to do that many. More than, say, probably I've done 350 short blockbuster handles, 850 blockbuster handles, or 750s, 850s, I think. 750s. No, 850 blockbuster handles I've done, or sledgehammer handles I've done. Probably a couple of hundred of them in the same time frame, just in the machine just runs itself. I've also done this morning 60 bent shovel handles. There you go. Short bent shovels, or short bent spade handles, D handles. Shaped them up, ready to go in the tumbler, and then they get the mortises put on them and the handles put on them, and then they go away. So done them. Put the round end on about 500 rake handles, which is not exciting either. Bill's asking all the complicated questions. How often do we make that many ads handles? Every couple of 3 months, 2 months, something like that, every couple of months. Not a big seller, but they do sell. Because I imagine Bill hasn't bought an ads handle for months. Probably it's going on a couple of years since he found that he needed one. And then he didn't know where to look, so he went and bought a router instead. But yeah, every couple of months we do a run of them. One of life's fun jobs. It's ads handles. They're a bit of a challenge because they're square on one end and round on the other end, and they've all got to line up properly, and they're a bit of work, a work of art actually. And they come out pretty nice, but there's a lot of work in them. So that's what I've done this week. Christmas plans. I've had a bit more money, I'd come to Tasmania. I haven't got that much money. That's not going to happen, unfortunately. It will happen at some point, probably in the new year some point, when I've got some time, some money in the bank, after I've got some accommodation here sorted, some sort of living arrangement properly out of the back of the van. But I am going to Toowoomba, to Kingsthorpe, and via Caboolture and probably Petrie. So there'll be a foundry trip to make bits, I think, probably for the donation box at this point. And if I can get the patterns done. And catch up with Mark, go and have a look at the new ute, all that sort of stuff. Christmas party for the Trades Guild too that I've been invited to for years, and I never got to because I always work Saturdays before Christmas, which is never much fun. So I'm gonna go and do that. Then I'm going to Kingsthorpe. I've got a roller canopy to paint. I've got a fairground organ to do something with. Some lettering on it. Not a fairground organ, a street barrel organ, I think you'd call it. Mechanical instrument, anyway. And I think I've got a motorbike tank to do something with as well, whether it's just a stripe around it or what, I don't know. But that's straightforward. And then I've got to be back for work on the 5th. But if I'm back here on the 1st or something like that, I've got another week that I can actually do some stuff around here and put stuff away and probably pull the injector off the roller. Do all those sort of things. Get everything up and running. So that's the plans. That's a few weeks ago. Bill's kind of surprised. We're all kind of surprised there's that much demand for ad sandals, Bill. Anyway, we keep making them. Keep selling them. It's a fairly new product line. I think the first lot we probably sold 20 of 2 years ago, and then numbers are growing every time, so people are still taking them. Whether they end up in man caves or boat builders or what, I don't know, but they're a pretty decent handle. Like, they really are a decent spotted gun of handle. They're as good ad handle as you would have been able to buy at any point in the past. So they're capable of doing some work. Pete, yeah, so little time, so many plans. Yeah, stuff to do. And there's stuff to do before I go too, so there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done. I need to get this lawnmower out of here. Need to get this stuff here cleaned up before I go, so that this roller, when it goes back in, can come back here in the back of the shed. And people have got clear space if they need to come in here while I'm gone and put engines, which is not probably going to happen, but if it does, it's awesome. Anyway, it's happening. There's less boxes here on the ground than there was. It's certainly a work in progress, but I've packed up probably 3 or 4 boxes since last Wednesday, so we're doing all right. We've got empties. There's still, what do we still got over here? Looking at this. Got a box full of assorted junk. Needs to clean out. Number plates, vintage camera stuff. I've got a box full of engine parts that need reassembling that I pulled apart to move up here from Tasmania, and I've got to put it back together. So that's probably a straightforward sort of a job. I've got a box of paint there that need to go in that cabinet when that cabinet goes outside, because there's another shelf unit like that going beside that in there. So that's that. I've got a gas bottle that needs to go over here with a welder. I've got a shelf unit there that could either be unscrewed and thrown out or put up somewhere. Probably going to screw it on the wall somewhere, to be honest. Might be a good idea. There's a heap of empty boxes here, and there's 2 shelves that I'm going to assemble together and put in the kitchen for coffee and tea and stuff. So if we did that, there's a milk crate there. There's a toolbox that needs to go back on the shelf. There's a trolley here, tool trolley, a welder trolley that needs to go out here on the end of the main bench when that comes in here. So there's another workbench to come in here, like in the middle here somewhere. Anyway, if we could get all this stuff cleaned up, which probably isn't a big job, then this roller will come back in here, and there'll be at least one portable for now go in front of it. And then we're starting to get things put together. Anyway, getting a bit hot here. There's snakes around today. There's a couple of snakes have been seen on the grounds here today. A black snake, a fair lump of a one, like this far through, and another tree snake as well. Both of them are probably not going to harm anyone unless you actually corner them or step on them, but yeah, there are snakes about, so be careful of that. So anyway, that's probably me done. I don't know. I'm sore. I'm going to go upstairs. The other thing I've done this week is that I jumped up and down and bought a new computer. There's not going to be a lot of mention about that because not really my thing, computers, to be honest. They're a necessary evil, and yes, I'm learning to come to grips with it and sort of learning to use it, I think. It's taken a bit, but I will get there. It's a MacBook. It's pretty decent. I kind of like it. I feel like everyone thinks I've sold out, but it's not a bad thing. It's tiny. It's a 15-inch laptop, but it's only as thick as my iPhone, and it's fast. Like everything happens instantaneously with it, and it does everything I want it to do. Whereas it doesn't make stupid clicking noises. The speakers work. The webcam's excellent. Microphone I think is pretty good. Hooks up to things. It syncs with everything. Kind of like it. Poor Peter doesn't, but I'm sort of a bit keen to. I think I'll get on top of it, and it'll be a very good machine. It'll be a much better machine, I think, than the old Alienware, which is really just getting to the point that's a bit dead. So when I go up to Brisbane, I'll drop them off with a friend, and she can do what she likes with them. I asked about the old computers, so I've got 2 here. That'll free up some space physically as well, getting rid of them. What's the MacBook? It's a MacBook Pro. Oh, no, it's not. It's a MacBook Air, which is the lightweight version of the Pro. Not that much difference in 2025. 5 years ago, yes, they were a bit light on. I think I looked at a Pro and thought that's probably what I needed, but the only real difference is the screen quality, and the Air is much better than what I had anyway. And the case is a little bit more beefy. They're a little bit heavier. They don't come in a 15-inch. The Air's got 16 megabytes of RAM for anyone who wants to know, and it's 512 megabytes solid state hard drive. 512 gig, sorry, not megabytes. 16 gig of RAM and 512 gig solid state hard drive. All that sort of stuff. It's a huge big processor in it. The trouble is with it, of course, and it's not much far removed than buying a Dell or a HP or anything else, is the bits are soldered on the circuit board, and you've got to put new boards in them or trade it in if you want to upgrade. I don't think that's much different to anything with Windows on it now. And the thing is about this, in 3 or 4 years, I'll still be worth 60, 70% of what I paid for it. So I can get rid of it and upgrade for much the same price it's going to cost to rebuild. I have an external monitor as well, yes. So I'm sounding like a sellout. Yeah, I am, but I've done a lot of homework, and it's been 6 months ago that I made the decision that's what I was going to do. It's just, also, the other thing is that the old Alienware Dell had no battery life left in it, and if I unplugged it and walked downstairs here, it was beeping at me, saying it was going flat. Not that you could walk around with it, because it's about 2 inches thick. Weighs a ton, whereas this has got 18-hour battery in it, and it's very nice to be able to, take it down the kitchen and mess around and watch a video or whatever while you're having dinner, and put it in the van closed up, and get down at lunchtime and have a mess with it, and put it back in, come home and do a few jobs, and then take it upstairs and plug it in and discover it's still got 80% of the battery left, which is very nice. So, kind of sold on it, to be honest. I don't think anyone's going to convince me otherwise at this point. Bill did the same homework nearly 30 years ago. Yeah, probably. And I've been of that mind for a long time. Might not be 30 years, but it's been a long time that I've been of that mind. It's just I've never really had the cash to invest in a new one. And buying second-hand computers is something that I'm not entirely sold on. I've done it at times for a necessity, but yeah. So, at this point, it should last me for a while. And if in 5 years I've got to get rid of it, and get rid of it for 30% of what I paid for it and upgrade it, well, who cares? Still got some resale. Anyway, that happened as well. Well, you might get a look at that at some point. It's pretty blue colour and it's just a laptop. It's aluminium. But we're making it work. I've just got to learn to drive the thing and what all the finger motions on the trackpad do and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, that's enough of that. I'm going to go, guys. I haven't had dinner yet. I think I've got a piece of steak and some salad and some sweet corn and stuff in there waiting for me. Probably some iced tea. And bedtime, and then back to work tomorrow to finish the rest of those rake handles and whatever else happens. And work on Friday morning, and then I've got a fairly big weekend. We've got an open working day and a Christmas party here for this club. And got some lawns to mow probably on Sundays. What's going to happen? Don't know. We'll see how we go. Stu had pizza. That sounds all right. You start saying you do research, you end up sounding like a flat earther, though, Peter, and you've got to be careful of that. Anyway, before we go down that road, I'm going to go, guys. There's no pizza shop here. There's no shops in Glenray open after about... There's no... that wild salad, that's right. Anyway, thanks, guys. I'm out, and appreciate you all tuning in. And be kind to each other.